Welcome back to Sunrise. Thanks for staying with us. Recently, there has been a renewed push to make the sex offenders registry in Jamaica public. This follows reports that a taxi driver allegedly involved in the case of teacher Daniel Anglin is a sex offender, a convicted sex offender.
So the resurgence in calls for public access to the registry raises questions about why it's not already available, especially given its potential to protect communities. What are the implications of making it public, and where are we in reviewing existing legislation to address these issues? Attorney at law Christopher Henry joins us to provide his opinion on this pressing issue. Good morning, how are you?
Morning, Indy. Morning, Dennis.
Morning, Chris.
I'm not here with you.
Let's begin by, appreciating maybe some of the history of where the sex offenders registry and calls for the publication of the sex offenders registry have been. Where are we now where this matter is concerned?
Well, as it stands now, the registry is closed. It is not open to the public. Public doesn't have access to it. I think this is the first time in Jamaica, I don't think it's the first time. I think it's the first time that we've had such a push in order to make it public or to grant the public access to it. It has always been closed. It has always been not open to the public. So there is no quote-unquote real precedent here in Jamaica for access to the registry.
Let's talk a little bit though, Chris, about the culture that we do have in, we have a history of vigilante justice, right? So let's talk a bit about, were we to make the registry open, the implications. I know some people are just like, who cares? Make everybody just go after them. But there must be law and order and a structure to this thing. So how do we take into control the response of people, in your opinion, in making such a list public?
I was recently on another program with a colleague of mine, and he made a very good point that it should be education. And before we open the registry, we should seek to educate the public on the tools of justice or the course of justice, and allow it to run its course. We need to educate them that vigilante justice is not the way. It is not the way to solve our problems, and that they need to understand that regardless of if the person is on the sex offender registry, they are persons too, and they have legal rights. And they've done the crime, they've been registered as a sex offender. I think in and of itself, that is enough punishment because you're basically a social pariah. So an education campaign in relation to mostly all crimes in Jamaica, because we believe that we're supposed to take justice into our own hands. We need an entire education campaign to just fix that whole vigilante justice culture, or attempt to fix.
Chris, when we hear the words open the registry or make it not closed, I would imagine that there are other jurisdictions that have opened, that have maybe designed a way of opening. In your view, how should it be opened? Should it be open in the sense that persons seeking to employ a person may gain information, or is it something that should just be on a website somewhere and it's just you go in and you can just search a name and you just get? I mean, take us through maybe the methodology or the operationalization of openness.
I am of the view that both methods you mentioned, Dennis, should be applied. However, while I think that it would be a combination in terms of you could go onto the website, it would be open, you could go onto the website. However, the website wouldn't give you an immediate answer. The website would probably ask you to provide an email address, and they will provide the report privately to you and to the employers when they're doing their background checks on the certain persons that they are wishing to employ. I don't think it should be open all at once. I think eventually we should get there. I think at first you should open it to, as you said, the employers, background checks to see if the employers are clear from that sort of offense, and then eventually we see how successful that is, which it probably will be, and we can open access to the public after, as I said earlier, we do our education campaign against the vigilante justice.
Let me ask you something though, Chris. Some would say everyone doesn't necessarily need to have access to this information. So let's say, you know, schools should have access, or rather a renter should have access, so you don't rent to someone who is on the registry who is within a certain proximity to a school, or you know, very specific people should have access to this list. What do you say to the school of thought that says it needs to be very specific? Someone could submit, say, a request to the, you know, constabulary force to say, I need this information to determine if I should employ this person, and then access is given, versus just a free-for-all where anyone can run in and search. What would you say, based on precedent set in other countries where it has established open registries that have worked, what is the format that you think we could actually take to make this really a reality?
Well, let's just go to the United States. All and sundry has access to their various state sexual offenders registry. So I don't know to the place burning down. So I am for all and sundry being able to put in a request to the Jamaican Constabulary Force and to access the information as they need it. I think there could be on the JCF ends, because we do have to balance interests, so I do take that point. On the JCF end, a sort of screening in the application process to see the mental state, or the not mental state, let me not say mental state, but the motive for the access.
Right.
There could be some balance on that part with the JCF, but I think everybody should have access to the sex offenders registry. Everybody.
Finally then, Chris, how do you think open access could have prevented the death of Daniel Anglin?
Well, InDrive would have done their background check. InDrive would have realized that the suspect was a sex offender, and InDrive probably simply would not have hired him. And she would have another InDrive driver, and she would be with us today and doing all the good works that I hear she used to do as an upstanding teacher. So those, especially in industries such as that, the ride-sharing app, the Uber, we need to know who these people who are operating the motor vehicles and picking up our relatives, our friends, and just citizens on a whole. So it can be a background check, even though Uber has excellent practices. It's an incomplete background check without the sex offenders registry, bill of clean health, for want of a better word, or its report that this person is a convicted sex offender.
All right. Well, that's assuming that the regulations for these rideshare companies exist. But thank you very much, Christopher Henry, attorney at law. Coming up next, court is in session. One attorney at law to another. Law and Order JA is up next. Stay with us.